Established media have successfully hidden from most people the fact that over the last 6 weeks, American military forces have been building up, not just in Germany, but in many of what we would call the low countries, moving upwards through. You asked where they are. The military armor, the American armor, has moved up to the border with Russia, but it is also in a number of German towns. So it is not a defensive posture, it is an aggressive posture. Now that's a key point. Over the last 3 weeks in Great Britain, the number of British and American transport aircraft, the amount of their journeys to and from Europe has been incredible, and they have been seen coming back empty. Now, we haven't got any pictures of them going out, but I personally have seen them arriving empty. So basically, I believe they're taking armor, sending it across to mainland Europe, and then coming back and reloading. So there's been a resupply operation for the last 6 weeks, but the peoples of the world were not told that. So I want your listeners please to understand that this has been a planned operation. This has been built up, but it's leaking out now because there's only so long that you can hide thousands of troops and hundreds of tanks. There comes a point when the lid comes off the boiling pot and people start to see it. So in answer to your question, up towards the border with what we perceive to be the old Russian border, but also in towns and key locations, but not in a defensive role. We need to understand that the 2 world wars have occurred in Germany. Now, doesn't matter who was guilty or not, the fact is that they've always started in Germany, and any 3rd World War was always targeted to start again in Germany. When a banking system is on the verge of collapse, the elite, and I'll name Mr. Rothschild, the elite will seek to have a war to reinvigorate the banking system, to reinvigorate the economy and start all over again. But we've got 2 aspects to this which we've not had before. The first aspect is the satanic arm of the Illuminati, who are quite happy for Jacob Rothschild and his gang to engineer a situation that causes a collapse of some sort. But unlike the Rothschilds, who want to just step back and then take the profit from it, this satanic group wants a complete war. So they're not interested in profit. What they're interested in is reducing the population and bringing the Western economies to an absolute turmoil. And we've not seen that before, because the Second World War and the First World War were controlled. Now this situation is not controlled, and one of the big players here is President Putin, the Russian president, who cannot be manipulated by some of these very bad people in the West. What was supposed to happen was that Russia was going to react to the American military buildup and give a reason for the United States to launch some form of preemptive strike. Mr. Putin has not done that. That's made it difficult. Now let's look at Angela Merkel. If I was the Chancellor of Germany, if I was Angela Merkel, and I really cared about my country, and somebody came to me and said, you're finished economically, so what we're going to do is we're going to destroy your country, but don't worry, it's for the greater good. I don't think I would be very happy either. And what Merkel did was basically send a message to the negative Illuminati saying, we're ready for the worst. And actually, they've just increased their warning. Their warning was 10 days worth of food and 10 days worth of water. Today, that's been increased to 14 days. So they're now looking at 2 weeks. For the last 2 years, I've always said you need 3 weeks worth of food and 3 weeks worth of water. So they're now talking two weeks. So what they did was they sent a message saying, okay, do your worst. We will bring in a form of conscription. We will increase our army. We will have our petrol, our gas, our food and water supplies at major dumps all over Germany, which they're doing now. We will make our citizens self-sufficient, and we will fight. Now, that was not expected. What they thought was Angela Merkel would just roll over and do what they wanted. Now, that's good for Germany, but it's very bad for the United States of America and for my country, Great Britain. And if you give me the moment, I will explain why that's bad for us, but good for you. We then had other countries following it, as you quite rightly said. People know the country as Czechoslovakia, although really it's called the Czech Republic. They followed suit immediately and said, yes, you've got to put food and water away. But something that's not been reported, the president of Czechoslovakia had a private conversation with his prime minister, and the president of Czechoslovakia asked his prime minister, was it feasible to give every citizen a gun? I actually asked the prime minister, could we do that? Now, I haven't had an answer but that was definitely asked. That's how serious it is. Then we had the Finnish government in Finland, who shares a border with Russia, saying same thing, food and water supplies for 10 days. And then we had a general in the Norwegian army suggesting that all Norwegians should be armed. So we have a very big situation occurring in that area because they know that something is happening. What they think is going to happen is going to be a war. I don't believe there is. But I think that there could have been had we had anybody other than President Putin. What we have got is a huge crash coming, and I'm going to name the banks. Deutsche Bank will be the first to go. Then it's either going to be Citibank in the United States of America or Barclays Bank in Great Britain. But when those three banks go, there will be an economic collapse in the Western world, and there will be no food and water for a period of about 3 weeks. So I think that these major countries bordering Russia are not so concerned about a war. They're more concerned about a deliberate attempt to bring an economy down, and their countries being very weak to protect that. So that's the first thing. The other thing I want to say is for the last 6 weeks, there have been tanks moving through Romania. That's not been widely known, but American tanks have been landing and been put down in places where the media can't find them. They've made their way through Romania to these positions. Don't just think of one place that tanks are coming through. All right, well, let's quickly now move across. Why is this bad for my country and America? Because no matter what the media says, private polling in the United States of America shows Mr. Trump is with 60% of the vote. Privately, Mr. Trump is going to win the election. Now, you know that you have some very outdated machines that count your votes, deliberately so. It's possible to alter upwards of 1 million votes, but the majority, the majority that Mr. Trump would get is so great that those counting machines could not alter the election. He would still win. So there's a real chance that President Obama will seek to postpone your November election. And you can't do that unless you have a national emergency. When the two towers came down, nobody talked about martial law. They all talked about bombing another country. But if there is another tower or something that happens, the first thing they'll do now is martial law to hold off the presidential election. There are two power factions in America that are key at the moment. One is the politicians at Capitol Hill, who are working through the Clintons, Hillary Clinton, and the other is the part of the military, but only part of the economic industrial complex, who are supporting Donald Trump. If Donald Trump becomes president, he will wipe away Capitol Hill and the system that has been there for such a long time. So the politicians in Capitol Hill want to stop Donald Trump at any price. I don't know how many of your viewers have seen the man with the hypodermic needle standing next to Hillary Clinton, trying to keep her awake and on her feet. She does all her campaigning from inside. She can very rarely go out. and some information which perhaps nobody else might have come forward with. Hillary Clinton has been offered a clone double, not a body double, a clone double. She has declined that because she knows that if she allows a clone in, they will terminate her body because they won't need her anymore. She's trapped. I feel very sorry for her, actually. She's fighting an election that she doesn't want. She's completely manipulated, and this could well be the last free election that you have in the States for quite a while. So that's my news. However, I want to finish it by saying this isn't the end of the world. This is not about cataclysm and we're all doomed. This is literally about a phase that we need to go through to come out the other end and be completely reborn. So we don't need fear. We don't need to be scared or concerned in that way. We do need to take precautions. We need to be safe. And we need to realize that the official media will not be telling us the truth. So I say again to everybody, form groups, keep in touch. If you've got a citizen band radio, use that, because they can't jam all of it, and try and keep in touch with everyone and be safe, and hold on to what you believe in. Just because someone says something on the news doesn't mean that's happening. So I don't want to end Kerry in its, with my hands waving in the air saying, the end of the world is nigh, because I don't believe that. And I just want that I don't want that message to be the energy message here. It's actually a positive message. You and I and many others know we have to go through some pain to come out the other end. So that's the first point I'd say, so I totally agree with you there. We cannot talk about this without mentioning the Kazakhstan Jews. As a Jewish person myself, I've always made a difference between being a Jew and being a Zionist. They've always made the difference. And I wish more commentators would actually understand the difference. There are a group of these people who are hell-bent, and I use the word deliberately, hell-bent on fulfilling their own prophecy. And these people have had great influence in 9/11, situations with Mars, the royal family in England, many, many things. These people are, wherever there's an issue, generally speaking, we would find this group, and there's no exception here. The history between Germany and the Jews is far more complicated than any regular historian would actually understand. One of my alerts, I referred to Angela Merkel as the Archduke. In the First World War, the Archduke was murdered, and it started the ball rolling. As soon as Angela Merkel refused to play ball with what these negative Americans wanted. And it's just a small group of people in America. Please don't think there are thousands of them. It's just a very small handful of very influential men. When she stood up to them, then her life was always on the line. Now, I think it was a botched attempt on a cavalcade. And I think that in a situation where somebody tries to kill a high-ranking politician, your own viewers and listeners know that the cameras aren't allowed to see anything. But we have seen pictures of a man in handcuffs. And that was deliberate, because I think what the German authorities were showing the people behind this man and those who would copy his actions, this is what happened. Normally you would have a blank camera, nothing would be shown, you just get a very terse couple of sentences what happened. But actually on German television, they showed the 4x4 and they showed this man with handcuffs on. Now, they did that as a sign, we got him, and if you try it again, we'll obviously take it further. So that was, again, power politics being played by the media. The media didn't understand they were being used, but that's happening. So it will always be Germany, because Germany geographically is the center of Europe. In terms of when we had the Cold War, we expected the Russian tanks to come through Germany. In the Winter War, which is the war between Finland and Russia, that was fought up on the cold front. And we have a whole situation along there, but Germany is pivotal. And also Germany is a very powerful economy. If you can destroy the German economy, you really knock Europe back. So there are many reasons why it would be Germany, but I think also the energy is part of these people's culture. These negative people, they've been successful twice in creating wars in Germany, so why wouldn't they go for third time lucky? What we call in England the game of musical chairs, where suddenly you're about to lose your country, then you get your country back, and if you're out of favour, then you're in favour. There have been a number of countries, including Canada, who have been edging back from the cliff, trying to disassociate themselves with the policies coming out of the United States of America. And I just want to say that this is not an attack on the American people. When I say United States of America, Kerry, I do not mean all the decent millions of people that live in the States. I'm talking about the few people who are making these horrendous judgments. But nevertheless, they are speaking for the American people, although the American people don't really know what these guys are telling other world leaders. But basically, you look at ISIS, you look at all these so-called terrorist groups that have been funded through the sale of oil, through Saudi Arabia, through other countries. If you're going to start a world war, the days of starting it off in one go won't work, because people are media savvy. People now are more prone to a gentle build-up. They'll accept it more. So by looking at countries that don't immediately affect the economy, such as Turkey, you can create the mindset in people's eyes that the world is a very unsafe place and wars can break out anywhere. And so therefore people will buy into the concept that it was going to happen anyway, that it was natural, and that the world was ready as a tinderbox to go up. So part of the policy is to create a conflagration, but to do it in a way that you take the population with you. It's a form of mind control. It's a form of a game. So yes, Turkey is chosen because Turkey is an incredibly important country. It's part Christian, part Muslim, and it's part of NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization. And you can divide the country in half, the half that is Christian and is Western, and the half that is Muslim and is not. And it's used as a buffer to keep out the ideas and the energies of the Eastern world, shall we say. That's why Turkey is so important to them. And if that buffer was to go, there are lots of secrets and lots of things that the people in the West don't know that would filter through. So it was a two-pronged approach. One was to slap the president and their parliament round the head. And secondly, it was to create an unstable situation that could actually cause more effect on Saudi Arabia, actually. And oil prices. So it's about oil still. President Obama wants the collapse to occur after the election, but the people who are really running the show want it before the election. And this is what is causing Obama a great panic and trying to find ways of stopping the election or holding it up. Because his understanding, he's been lied to. His deal was that he would finish his term of office, be the first black president, and everything would be hallelujah and wonderful. And then when it all went wrong, it wasn't anything to do with him. Well, hey-ho, these people now are saying to him, we can't wait. And you're absolutely right, Kerry. The timeline, we're on the same timeline, but we're on a different portion of that timeline. They want over. So Obama wants this after his presidency, but the people who are pulling the strings want it before his presidency. Now, the announcement about the water and the food is not to do with a war that will wipe out America. It is to do with the disruption of the supply system. Now, I do predict an attack in Britain, my country, and or the United States. This is a false flag attack. I don't see in Britain a disruptive bomb. I see it knocking out all of the financial sector. You're familiar with England very well, but perhaps many of your people are not. We call it the Golden Mile. We call it the City of London. It is a city within a city. David Icke would always talk about the separate city, and he's quite right. But in the City of London is contained the powerhouse of the world in terms of the stock markets, the stock bonds and shares. If that was disabled and taken out, this would have a huge effect, not just in Great Britain, not just in Europe, but across the world, but predominantly the Western world. So I genuinely see a high probability of an attack to knock out the economic backbone of the Western world, and no better way than taking out the City of London. Now, if you can combine that with some form of physical attack in the United States of America, you have all of the reason you need to order martial law, to bring the troops on the streets, to give everybody in the United States who wears a uniform, no matter what that uniform is, to give them the power of a police officer. That's what they'll do. And you'll have a situation for 3 days, where their system will work. So people will be knocking on people's door to put them in what you guys have, your FEMA camps. After the 3rd day, that will break down, and whatever system they are trying to run will not work. Well, when the Twin Towers came down, there was a huge amount of gold that was shipped out under the underground passageways, and that was used as a cover, as I know you know, but most people don't know. There's a difference now. There's no money left in the world. There's no real wealth left. It's been sucked out of just about everything. What's left isn't real anymore, and that which is left is either owned by China, George Soros, the Rothschilds, and 1 or 2 other few people. So when you've got nothing left, all you can do is put a situation out that the value of a company drops by 60, 70%, although it's valueless, but then you can come in and buy it and make your money. So that's what they've always done with these recessions that have boomed back again. The difference is that they're not attacking themselves. What they're doing is they're saying that the system that we have created, we are in uncharted waters. We actually don't know now. We made this system. I'm talking for the Rothschilds. They made the system. But for the first time in their own history, they don't know what's around the corner. All they know is that they've sucked out so much wealth that there's very little left for them. And they are quite happy for it just to fall to pieces and then go in and buy it all out. But it is not about a blind or a false cover. It's actually about wiping everything away and restarting up again, because there isn't anything worth saving from their perspective of an economy. I talked about Deutsche Bank, that owes so much money that it's literally just a pinprick into a balloon away from completely going. That's how close it is. But again, many people don't understand, because they see banks during the day. But when a bank closes, it does its real business. So from about, I don't know, midnight till 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, it's when it does all of its trading, the money that they really make. Now, I can tell you that Deutsche Bank sometimes is within, in American terms, just a few $100,000 short of going broke each time they trade during these closed hours. That's how close it is. So we need to understand that, well, if one major bank goes, I predict economically it will be between 4 and 6 times worse than when Lehman Brothers went down. Now, so between 4 to 6 times worse. So we can then understand that a large hypermarket, it orders its food at midnight, and then the lorry arrives at 5 o'clock in the morning. So they've ordered it all electronically. Now, if that system goes down, there's no way for people to buy, because their money can't travel electronically.